"Open the safe, Grandpa!" the young man shouted. Walter Jenkins looked calmly from behind his glasses, his hands in the air. "Of course, son," he said slowly. "But first, I want to show you something." And at that moment, none of them knew that. This old antique dealer could take all three of them down in 15 seconds. Welcome to Human Stories. Before I begin this powerful tale, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this should be remembered. Hit that subscribe button and help keep these stories alive. In the historic district of Salem, Oregon, on Main Street, there was a small shop called Jenkins Antiques. Its window displayed old clocks, porcelain objects, and various collectibles. The building dated back to the 1920s with narrow aisles, inside and old items piled up to the ceiling. Most people stopped by out of curiosity, rarely making purchases. Walter Jenkins was a 71-year-old man with thin-framed glasses and a slightly hunched posture. He had run this shop for 20 years. He opened every morning at 9, closed at 6, and spent hours alone organizing his antiques. He didn't talk much with customers, only providing necessary information. The neighbors knew him as a kind but introverted old man. No one knew much about Walter's past. When he opened the shop, he had only said he was retired. No one questioned how he knew so much about antiques or why he chose this business. He didn't offer details. He just quietly did his work, living alone in the small apartment behind the shop in the evenings. Walter's daily routine was always the same. He drank his morning coffee, opened the shop, checked the items, and organized bills. During his lunch break, he ate a sandwich in the small back office and read the local newspaper. When customers came, he greeted them politely, answered questions, made sales or not. It didn't seem to matter. It was clear he didn't do this for money, but just to keep busy. That Wednesday evening, as he was preparing to close up, 3 young men appeared at the door. It was 5:45, near closing time. Walter let them in. Maybe they were last-minute customers. But there was something different in the young men's eyes. The leader, Rick Patterson, around 25 years old, tattooed and aggressive-looking, quickly scanned the shop. His 2 friends, Mike and Tony, were also sizing up the place. Walter realized this wasn't an ordinary customer visit, but he maintained the calm demeanor he had developed over the years. "How can I help you?" Walter asked, adjusting his glasses. Rick smirked. "Actually, you're going to help us, old man." Walter's body language didn't change, but his mind began running through protocols he had learned long ago. Exit routes, potential weapons, neutralization techniques. Even after 30 years, muscle memory was intact. Mike locked the door and flipped the closed sign outside. Tony went to the back room to check for other exits. They were moving with a plan. "Listen, Grandpa," Rick said, approaching Walter. "This doesn't have to get messy. Give us the money from the safe and no one gets hurt. Simple." Walter looked calmly from behind his glasses. "Of course, but there isn't much in the safe. Maybe $200, $300. Rick laughed. "You think we're stupid? These antiques aren't here for decoration. You've got valuable pieces, we know it." Walter shook his head. "You're right, there are some valuable items, but they're registered with insurance. They're traceable." "Not our problem," Mike said from behind. "We have buyers." Tony returned from the back room. "Clear. No other exits. The old man's alone." It was then that Rick pulled out his gun. An old pistol, but functional. "Game time's over, Grandpa. Open the safe. Take out the valuables. Now." Walter's heartbeat didn't even quicken. He had faced much more dangerous weapons over 30 years, but now was different. He no longer had a B uniform, no team members. He was just an old antique dealer. "Of course, son," Walter said slowly, raising his hands. I'll open the safe, but first I want to show you something. Rick frowned. What are you going to show us? Walter smiled. It was the first real smile he had cracked that day. The most special piece in my collection. Rick pointed the gun at Walter. Don't play games with me. I'm not playing games, Walter said. And at that moment, his 71-year-old body seemed to rejuvenate by 30 years. Walter's move was so fast that Rick couldn't process what happened. 1 second he was pointing the gun at Walter. The next he was on the floor, his arm twisted behind his back, unable to breathe. Walter's hand was on Rick's throat, applying precise pressure to a vital point. Mike stood, frozen in shock. Tony was equally stunned. How had the old man moved so quickly? "If your friends move, I'll kill you," Walter whispered into Rick's ear. His voice was completely different now, authoritative, cold, deadly. "You two, on the ground, hands behind your backs." Mike and Tony looked at each other. Who was this old man? "On the ground!" Walter shouted, and this time his voice was so commanding that both automatically obeyed. Walter released Rick, who was already half-conscious. He quickly approached Mike, twisting his arm behind his back and neutralizing him. Tony tried to run, but Walter's grip on his wrist was like a vice. In 15 seconds, all three were on the floor, immobilized. Walter adjusted his glasses. He wasn't even out of breath. He fetched plastic zip ties from the back office and secured all three. Then he took out his cell phone and called the police. "Salem Police Department. This is Walter Jenkins. From Jenkins Antiques. I have 3 armed robbers neutralized. Address." Rick's head was slowly clearing. Who are you?" Walter looked at him. "My name is Walter Jenkins, but for 30 years I was a special operations expert in Navy SEAL Team 6. All three of their jaws dropped. "From 1975 to 2005, Walter continued. "Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Panama. Wherever there were terrorists, we were there. After I retired, I wanted a quiet life. Antique dealing seemed like a nice hobby." Tony managed to speak. But you're old?" Walter smiled. "Yes, I've aged, but muscle memory never fades, especially when you train every day for 30 years. Police sirens were approaching. "Let me give you some advice," Walter said. "Next time you try to rob someone, find out who they are first, because you have no idea how many retired soldiers, cops, and FBI agents live in this city." When the police arrived, the 3 robbers were lying on the floor in zip ties, and Walter was calmly giving his statement. After the incident, the neighborhood's perception of Walter changed. He was no longer just the old antique dealer. He was a hidden hero. But Walter's behavior never changed. He still opened at 9, closed at 6, and politely attended to his customers. There was only one difference. Now the police stopped by, regularly asking, "How are you, Mr. Jenkins?" He would smile and say, "I'm fine, boys, just dealing with my antiques." Because that's how real heroes act. They serve quietly, intervene when necessary, and then return to their ordinary lives. Walter Jenkins never told war stories, never gave television interviews, never sought newspaper headlines. He just stood in his shop every day, knowing he was ready if anyone needed help. Have you ever met someone like Walter Jenkins? Someone who seemed ordinary but had an extraordinary past? Share your experiences in the comments. And if this story touched you, subscribe to help keep such stories alive.